Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. All right. Welcome, everybody, to today's episode of Cliff's Notes. We're excited you're here, and I got to tell you, we are dropping value bombs today. I'm going to do a little personal coaching for those of you out in the audience. This is some of the training that we do with our team, so I want you to get your phones on airplane mode. Grab a pen and a legal sheet or two. You're going to need plenty of things to write on today, and we're going to dig in. So first, let me welcome my co-host, my son, affectionately known as C3. Look at that, C3 co-host right here. Welcome. Glad to have you on the show today, my good friend and son.
Excited to be here, man. Thank you again.
All right. And obviously, we wouldn't be where we are today. If you caught my little Facebook Live before the show, you saw what goes on kind of behind the scenes. And the man behind the curtain today, Mr. Trelvis Giles. Are you back there, Trelvis?
I got to correct you, Cliff. You'd probably be further along if I wasn't. Got to correct you on that one, man.
I know that's not true. Well, hey, we appreciate you, and we know we're going to have a safe landing today with you at the controls. So
Definitely.
We're really grateful for that.
Yes, sir.
All right, my friend. So why don't we just go ahead and start unpacking things, man? We got, like I said, a ton of value to deliver. Today's show, if you ever had trouble with mindset and you felt like that phone weighed about 1,000 pounds, we're going to give you the tools and the secrets that you need to really turn that phone into an ATM. I'm going to talk to you today about the 5 levels that you got to break through. I'm going to give you the tips and the track that you're going to need to really go for a 30-day trial here. It's actually a trial. It's a challenge. It's not really a trial. It's a challenge to help you get where you need to be with this mindset. I will also let you know that it's important that you download the exercise that we're going to do. We're going to go over today, as well as that 30-day challenge. If you go to www.getcliffsnotes.com, you'll find the material for today's episode there, and you can download it and join us. If you've got a chance to do that now, that'd be great. You can follow along. But I want to just start out. We're going to cover a book that was written back in 2010 that many of you may know of or have heard of. But when I read this book for the first time, and you read it recently for the first time, there was a part of the book that really spoke to me. I was at a season in my life, where I'd been jamming in real estate for 30 years and, making lots of money. But really, you get to a point and you wonder what's the end game? What's it going to look like when it's over? So I just want to read this excerpt out of the book. And this book that we're using today is called Go for No. It's by Richard Fenton and Andrea Waltz. And if you turn to page 32, check this out. I'm going to read this, and this just really hit home to me. It says, statistically, only 5% of the population will be able to retire without assistance. 36% will have already died. 6% will continue working. And a staggering 53% will be dependent on friends, relatives, government, or charity for their survival. And who do you think gets to be in the lucky 5%? Those are the people who failed the most during their lifetimes. That's who. So what this is about today, folks, is failure. And I want you to sort of get that word out of your vocabulary, because failure is really nothing more than a way for us to get feedback. And you know, if you don't have feedback in life, you really never know if you're on the right track. So think of failure as being the equivalent of feedback. And certainly failure, as we know it, is not the same thing as being a failure. And we're going to talk about some examples. I mean, I can just think of a few right now. And I think one that you pointed out to me earlier, C3, was you were reading in the book and it said something about Thomas Edison, right?
Right.
What was his quote about Edison?
I think it was something along the lines of, he figured out 10,000 ways, to create a way to figure out how to invent the light bulb, but it was 10,000 incorrect ways. And,
right.
Yeah,
exactly. So for him and for a lot of us, it's a numbers game. When you think about what we do as prospectors in real estate, whether it's calling expireds and for sale by owners, or whether it's calling buyer leads from your internet lead generation platform, or maybe it's even door knocking or whatever prospecting method you're using, it really is what we call a zero-sum game. And what I mean by that is that there's going to be winners and there are going to be losers. And there are only so many clients that can be won and only so many that can be lost. And what we're going to talk about today is a tool that's going to help you focus on not giving up and continuing. In other words, a lot of times when we get a win, like say, for example, you're on the phone calling expireds and you have a successful appointment set, a lot of us would give up at that time. But what we're going to do is show you ways and talk about ways today how you're going to be able to increase what you're producing by not giving up there. See, actually, we're going to flip it around and talk about why you should count the no's instead of the yeses that you get. All right, so as we said in the title of the show today, there are 5 levels that you've got to break through. And if you've had a chance to download the workbook with us, I would encourage you again. And this is what when you do download the workbook, this is what we are right now on this page right here. And it's the 5 levels that allow us to go beyond just the willingness to tolerate no and really learn how to embrace it. So level 1 is accepting the ability to fail, and we all do that.
We're all given that ability, right?
We're all, right out of the chute.
Yeah.
We're given the ability to fail, and so most of us have the ability to move past that basic level. The second level is where it's not something that just happens, but it's actually a willingness to fail. In other words, you understand the importance of increasing your failure, but it's not something that you're always comfortable with, right? So you kind of do it begrudgingly. And we're going to talk about a mental battle that's going on in that 5.5 inches between your ear that contributes to this. So the third level is the wantingness to fail. And that really goes way beyond just the tolerance and acceptance, but it's actually a desire to fail. And that's really a change in mindset for most of us, because we're brought up and taught not to fail. We're always taught that it's about the successes, right? But it's not the successes that get us there. And I've heard it said many times, you really don't learn from your successes in life, you learn from your failures. All right, so level 4 is people that are really good at failing, and I mean that in a way of they accept it, they embrace it, and they take failure as a way to get better. And then lastly is failing exponential, and this would be included, for example, if you ran a real estate team where you actually worked to get the team to fail together, failing together to get some greater results. So, the average real estate agent gives up, C3, when a client says no 4 times. You may have been on a call with a client, and you ask them, hey, are you ready to make a move yet, or no? Or they say, welcome to the website, and what can I do for you today? And no, I'm just looking, that kind of thing. It's kind of like when you walk in and you got a nice looking jacket on there, and when you walk into the clothing store and somebody says no, well, 92% of agents give up after 4 no's. And we know statistically that that's just when somebody is going to be in a position to start saying yes. I mentioned the sport coat thing. I just want to talk about this for a second. What does a salesperson typically ask you when you go into a store to buy clothes?
Is there anything I can help you with, or what are you
Can
looking
I help
for?
you,
Anything
right?
particular? Yeah.
Can I help you? And we're programmed naturally. We don't want to get messed with. So what do we automatically say?
I'm great, thank you. I don't need help.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just looking.
Yeah, just
right?
looking.
Does that ever happen? Real estate people out there all the time, right? You ask somebody, hey, you're looking for houses. Can I help you? What do you, tell me. I mean, I'm here to help. Great. Well, I don't need you. Well, the first thing is, does that really mean no, I don't need your help? Or does it mean something else? And the answer is, look, there are 3 things that people can say and mean different things. They can say yes, and it means yes. They can say no, and it can be no. But what can no also mean?
Not right now.
Not right now. Okay? So, not right now, when you're getting these no's, it's really somebody that's trying to deflect you, and it's probably because you haven't built up rapport with them. Now, let's go back to that example where you're buying a jacket in a store, and I'm the salesperson, and instead of going up to you and saying, hi there, I'm Cliff, can I help you? What if I say, hi, I see you're looking at 48 regulars. Do you want that in blue, or would you like to see something in more of a gray?
Right.
Okay. Now, automatically, what happens?
You've kind of opened them up to more opportunity with not just limiting them to one per se suit, but other options that you have in the store.
Yeah, absolutely. So other options, but I'm instead of me giving them an opportunity to say no,
right.
What I'm doing is I'm actually showing them that I'm engaged in what they're doing. I noticed that you were looking at suits. I see your size, and you're looking at blue. Maybe you don't know where the grays are. So I'm actually going to go in and start adding value right away. So do you see the difference between can I help you and getting actually engaged in the process? So that's what will help, for sure, is especially when we're going for these no's. If we can give other opportunities, like you said, then we're going to have a higher chance of getting a yes.
Hey, Cliff,
all right. Yeah, Terrell.
Jump in there. I feel like that's a really good point. I think with anything that you do, when you personalize it with someone, it kind of makes them feel like, they're that special client. You're tailoring whatever it is that you're doing, you're tailoring it specifically to them, and it kind of builds their relationship. That's a really good point.
Right. Well, it is. And, you've probably read 100 times How to Win Friends and Influence People, Terrell.
Sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
And so what's the number one thing that, tip that in that book, to help you build rapport with people?
What is it?
Well, it's to call them by their name. Like, for example, if you're at the checkout stand at Kroger and you're checking out with your groceries, people wear name tags for a reason. A lot of people ignore that, don't even acknowledge somebody by their name.
Right.
But if you stop somebody and acknowledge them and say, hey, Carol, I'm doing great today. How are you? And use that. That makes somebody feel really good about themselves when you call them by their name. And that's a perfect example here of building rapport and doing that, because you've got to get in rapport with people. So back to this whole thing about the zero-sum game theory. So there's a finite number of transactions that are out there in the real estate universe. What we know is that it's really a numbers game. And so what we tend to do, and I wish I could ask for a show of hands, because I know if I could see through the camera, if I asked you, how many of you guys out there and ladies track the number of contacts and appointments that you have? Probably all of us, right? We all track the positive things that occur. But the reality is that when we do that, there's a part of us, there's a subconscious of us that says, okay, it's time to shut it off. You've had a successful appointment. You've set that appointment. You're done for the day. It's time to go home. So what happens is we tend to underperform. Think of it this way. If instead of counting the number of positive events that happened, if we counted the negative events, then if I had a positive event, that would not keep me from going on and having more than one positive event, right? All right, so I want to go deep here for a minute and talk a little bit about the brain, all right? So what happens is right here between our ears, we have this continuing battle between our conscience and our subconscious. And so we all know that when we get on the phone and we're going to be, pounding out the calls and so forth, we know we're going to face a certain amount of rejection. And rejection's not easy for people to take. It's really not. In fact, it's very difficult to take. Our conscience will weigh the pain of making those phone calls against the benefit of getting a client and potentially a large commission check. And the conscious part of us knows that the value of that commission check is far going to exceed the pain that we're going to endure for being on the phone for a couple hours, right?
Totally agree.
Totally agree with that. Everybody else agree with that? Hold your hand up. I see you out there. Now, if you think about the subconscious, the way that we were designed by the great creator was actually, we were equipped with a mechanism known as fight or flight. Is everybody, Travis, you heard that? Fight or flight, right?
I have. I've heard that expression.
And that's a protection mechanism so that, for example, if you're in the jungle and you happen upon a lion, okay, that fight or flight mentality kicks in. And it's actually, the term for it is called an amygdala hijack. That's where all of a sudden you look and you go, I got to get the heck out of here, and I hope I can outrun that lion. Either that or I hope my buddy's slower than I am, right? Yeah. So that's the amygdala hijack, and that's what happens. And so the subconscious has, and you've probably heard a reference to a drunk monkey, Travis. If you've been coaching in real estate, you can't miss this reference. But we talk about a drunk monkey that lives up there in your subconscious that keeps telling you, no, don't do it. It's not worth it. The pain of picking up that phone and getting people to, tell you no, to go through 100 of those to get to a yes. Don't do it. You can go find better ways to spend your time and so forth. But the reality is that isn't the case. And I mean, let's be real, right? You and I were at lunch and we were reflecting, and we were talking about how many people or how many broadcasts or newscasts or newspaper reports we've seen where people died from being told no on the phone. And Travis, you know what? We couldn't think of anybody who actually died from making a call and being hung up on or being cussed out or anything else.
I can't. No one comes to mind in my mind either. I can't say I've heard that one.
And it's crazy because, again, our subconscious would have us believe that we are nothing more than, putting ourselves out on the firing line every time we call people who weren't expecting to hear from us. And, the reality is it's not always the messenger, right? That you've heard the phrase, don't shoot the messenger. Well, it's not the messenger that people are upset with, it's the message. And maybe you caught them at the wrong time. Tony Robbins, when he's coaching people how to make calls, he says, tell people right up front, listen, I know I'm interrupting your day, but I got something really important I need to talk with you about. Is that okay? And so, people, you're not going to be able to catch them. We interviewed my good friend AJ Maida, who just really crushed it, and he cut his teeth on expireds his first year in the business. And what he said was, I always like to call between 8 and 9 in the morning. And the reason why is because what are people doing between 8 and 9 in the morning? Most working people are what?
Typically getting into the office, driving to work.
Driving to work, on the way in, they get there by 9 and so forth. Because if you catch them at another time, either when they're dropping their kids off for school or once they get to work, they're not going to be as available to pick up the phone. But when somebody's cruising and, swimming with the rest of the salmon, down the tollway, what have you, that's the best time to catch them. So that also, by the way, will help increase your odds. Okay, so it's about retraining your subconscious. Back to this subconscious thing. It's about retraining. And what are some ways that we can do? I know that in our training, and we're going to be doing this exact training in the Cliff Freeman group this week. We're actually going to spend 2 weeks. I know we've only got 30 minutes today, but this is a 2-week training that we're going to do in our office. But some of the tools that we use, like instead of counting, we do the accountability stuff.
Right.
We're counting the no's, right?
Right, exactly.
And,
Yep.
We use charts and spreadsheets that are designed to kind of flip that whole thing around, a tracking chart, so we can, and rather than count the yeses, we're counting the nos. And what that does is it helps reprogram that subconscious, so that it's not constantly telling us the outcome that we don't want to have, because that's what it's doing. It's telling you an outcome that you don't want to have. Now, speaking of outcomes, another very important thing to consider is that should you be worried about the outcome? So that doctors aren't allowed to operate on family members. Did you know that, Travis? If you have a family member who's a doctor and you need a heart transplant, more than likely they're going to have somebody else do it. Do you know why?
I did not know that. Why is that?
Well, it's because doctors have to put all emotions aside, and believe it or not, they have to focus on what they're doing to the point that they can't be attached to the outcome.
Makes perfect sense.
And you know what? I mean, if a doctor gets in there and it's his daughter that he's operating on, or son or what have you, I mean, they get so wrapped up in the outcome that it gets in the way of the process. Okay, and the exact holds true if you're on the phone, if you're prospecting, and you're attached to the outcome, and you let it get to you every time somebody says no, which, by the way, could also mean not right now.
Right.
Okay, you just caught us at a bad time. Then you're going to be a hot mess, and you're not going to be successful on the calls. So always, always, always try to detach yourself from the outcome. All right. So, Free, we're here now. I was just thinking of some examples.
Right.
I think it was Creighton University. They were talking about the coach there who was very successful, a little small town.
Creighton.
Yeah. Did I pronounce it wrong? I do that all the time.
It's all right.
It's all right. We
It's
get
all right.
one every show.
Yeah.
We get one every show.
Yeah. But, his whole thing was, look, in order to be successful, you got to take X number of shots. If you look at
Right.
Wilt Chamberlain when he scored 100 points that time, I mean, that's phenomenal. Can you imagine a guy scoring 100 points in an NBA basketball game?
No, that's a feat. And I don't even know if it was a 3-point line back when that happened
Right.
either. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of 2-pointers.
Yeah, a lot of twos, for sure.
But, the reality is he had to take enough shots. He had to miss enough in order to make enough.
Right.
And a lot of people, if you don't get up to the bat and get enough at-bats and swing enough, you're not going to hit the ball, right? Babe Ruth, another great example. One of the greatest hitters of all time. He also, I think, led the league in strikeouts in many of the years that he was out there. So look at the people that have failed and what they've overcome. Another good example, Abraham Lincoln. You know the one about Colonel Sanders, right?
I've not heard that one.
You haven't heard that one?
Let's drop a jewel.
He's got a great story. I mean, the guy was in his late 70s or 80s when he finally got his fried chicken place going. Mm-hmm. But for 2 years, he was going around trying to sell his chicken and trying to get people to buy it, and it was unsuccessful.
Wow.
I mean, that guy went through, and he had a bad divorce and all kinds of stuff. I mean, here's somebody that just never gave up. And, it's just, I mean, it's unbelievable to think the effort that goes in. Because you know what, C3, people remember your successes, but they'll never remember your failures, and they probably won't even know about your failures.
I like that.
Right? So, I mean, you look at all the people that we admire, all the heroes and stuff, and you really never know what kind of a grind it was for them to get there, because all you see is their successes.
One thing I carry with me, Cliff, and it kind of ties into what you are mentioning and talking about, is you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Right.
And that's something that I hold with me on a daily.
Yeah, exactly. No, there's no question about it. You do miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. All right, so if you're just joining us, we're going through and talking about the one word that you need to know, and I'm going to teach you a 4-letter word here in just a second too. Ooh, did I say a 4-letter word? I did, didn't I? But we're talking about the principles that are found in this book here by Richard Fenton and Andrea Waltz. It's a great book written in 2010. We use it a lot in coaching, and it's called Go for No. And again, it's about shifting your entire mindset. Be sure you download the deliverables at getcliffsnotes.com. And we've got both the 30-day challenge for you as well as the workbook for this particular show that we're doing today. Now, I mentioned that I was going to teach you a 4-letter word, and this is a G-rated show. I know there's a lot of podcasts out there where people are, dropping all kinds of bad language and stuff, but I think one thing you'll find here that we're friendly, it's safe, and you can have this on while your family's in your house. But the one 4-letter word that I want to tell you, and if you've got a pen and a piece of paper, I'm going to spell it out for you. Travis, you ready for this one?
I'm ready. Take off.
Okay. N-E-X-T.
Simple.
Next.
It's simple.
Okay? If somebody says no and they're not interested in your product, go on to the next one. Because, as we said, it's a zero-sum game. There's a finite number of real estate transactions that are going to happen out there in the universe. And what your goal is to cycle through enough of those so that you get your unfair share. And so next is key. A lot of us will want to hang on and try to keep somebody on the phone and convert them or save them or whatever it is that we think we can do for them. But the reality is that somebody, that if they say no, it could actually mean no. And if it does, then, and they tell you no 4 times, right? Because what we learned is that most real estate agents give up after
4 no's.
So 92% of your competition is stopping before they get to yes. And if you don't go for at least 6 of those and then use the word next, then, so you got to go deep, but at the same time, you got to know when to cut your losses.
Definitely puts that into perspective.
Yeah. So, C3, this was the first time that you read this book. What was it that, again, was there anything in particular that really resonated with you with you and maybe even your generation of folks, because you guys grew up in a little different generation than I did. What was it that really resonated with you in any particular part of the book?
Well, just really just getting into real estate, it kind of I had a huge fear of failure, and this book puts a lot of that into perspective about how you're going to fail regardless if you're new into the business, just getting later on into your career into the business, or any business in general. About really just trying to embrace the failure and the rejection that you're going to get, and really kind of empowering yourself and doing certain things the right way as far as affirmations and staying after it. I really enjoyed this book. It kind of really lit a fire underneath myself here and puts, like I said, things into perspective about what I need to be doing, how I need to better myself, and I'm excited. This book is so knowledgeful. It has a plethora of information about how you can self-actualize, and I'm just really excited about the book. I'm going to continue to read it.
Well, so some people may not know your story, but C3 played college golf, and he was pretty good. In fact, he played in, I think it was, what year was it? 2015.
2015. Yep.
In the D1 Junior College National Championship, right here. And so, if there's one thing that it's mindset, how to have the mindset of a winner, okay? But one thing that you did is you grinded, man. I mean, you were out there at the driving range consistently, just pounding away, practice, and then you were able to, get to that level.
Right.
But you failed, and I'm just saying that you didn't win every tournament you played.
No, I agree, yeah.
You didn't hit every shot perfectly. You didn't make every putt, but you got to one of the highest levels at your age and in college golf that you can get to.
Yep.
So being able to understand that and apply this to what it takes to be successful in real estate and to be able to prospect, which, by the way, I'm going to borrow one from Gary Keller here. We're not really in the real estate business. We're in the lead generation and lead conversion business, and that includes prospecting. So to hear what you said about this book with your accomplishments is really meaningful to me, and I think hopefully meaningful to the folks in the audience, because it takes that discipline and it takes that right mindset. So get your, if you want to have different outcomes with your business right now, you got to get your head. You need a checkup from the neck up, and you got to get your mindset correct and get it going right. So that is go for no. And my challenge to everybody on the call on the show today is to go to getcliffsnotes.com, download the 30-day challenge, and what I would like to do is 30 days from now, Travis, let's put it in the calendar.
Okay.
We're gonna go back and talk with people who have gone through the 30-day challenge and see what kind of results. And I guarantee you, my whole team is going to be on this challenge starting this week. We start training tomorrow, and we would love to have you participate alongside of us and see if we can get those the kind of results that I get all the time. This is not, I've done this training for really, we started doing this back in 2010 when the book came out. So for 9 years, we've been using these tools successfully to help agents really explode their business. All right, so gosh, I guess that's going to be a wrap today. Next week is the 4th of July. We have got something, a little bit of a surprise. We're going to do something fun for you on the 4th of July, so be sure to tune in. We really appreciate your feedback. If you would, be sure to give us some love out there. Hit the love button, hit the like button. Travis, you got something for us?
Yeah, Cliff, I got a couple people actually chiming in.
Okay.
Johanna McDaniels, she is tuning in from the car. She wanted us to let us know that.
Awesome.
And Jeff Williams, he wants to say, nice fellas, nice job.
Oh,
thanks,
excellent.
Jeff.
Is that Jeff Willems?
Yeah.
Jeff Williams, yes sir.
Jeff
That's
Willems,
it.
my dear friend in Tucson, and his wife Marcy, great friends of
folks.
ours. They do about 500 house sales a year out
right
there. If
on.
there's anybody that knows about Go for No, it's those
definitely
two
him,
wonderful
yeah.
people. Yeah, and
A
wish
heck of
them
a
the
golfer
best.
too.
Yeah, appreciate the love from y'all, and you guys tune back in next week. Like I said, something a little special for you on the 4th of July. But we will talk to you then, and just learn, man. Go for no. That's it, right?
Such
baby?
a great book.
Yeah, Go for no. All right, we'll see you guys next week.